Day, Chapter 40, Telling About. Ooh, I don't know what that chapter title means. Telling about. Telling about what? Who are you going to tell? What are you going to tell them? There's 5 of us stuffed into Mrs. Bailey's car, Henry. Turns out she didn't have to work today because she is a teacher's aide, so we didn't have to ride the bus. Karina wanted to come too, but she volunteered to watch Dylan so Mama could come instead. Given how excitable Ree can be, having Mama's negotiation superpowers might come in handy. There was no way Fire was staying behind. She doesn't trust us to make sure the doctors know about Jewel's pills. Do you think they'll listen to everything we have to tell them about Jewel? Fire asks. I shrug. I don't know. Watching the world outside the car window. We're just kids, and you know how adults are about that. They think we have overactive imaginations. Fire snorts. We don't have imaginations, she says, crooking her fingers around the word imagination. We have facts. I hope she's right. At the front desk in the hospital, Mrs. B announces our arrival to a lady staring at a computer screen. We are here to visit a patient, Jewel Knight. The lady looks up from her computer and frowns. She peers past Mrs. B, taking in Ree and the rest of us. All of you? She asks. Yes, ma'am, I say. We're all her friends. That may be, the lady says, but only 2 visitors are allowed at one time. I feel Ree tense up next to me. Ree does not take comfort in rules. She takes 1 step forward. She needs her friends, she growls. Those are the rules, the lady growls back, which is frankly pretty impressive. Ree, Mama says, why don't you and Piper go on up and see Jewel since she knows you? We'll stay here. I want to go too. Fire stomps her foot. Sometimes I forget how young she is. Mama cups Fire's face in her hand. I need you to stay here with us, honey. We need to do what's best for Jewel right now. I fiddle with the visitor's pass hanging around my neck as we ride the elevator up to the 3rd floor. What will Jewel be like? Despite what Mama said, Jewel doesn't really know me. I talked with her that one time in line, but, well, she was kind of odd that day. I don't know if she would remember. On the 3rd floor, we stop off at the nurse's station to ask for directions to Jewel's room. The nurse frowns. The patient gets easily agitated. She gives us the once-over. To Ree, she says, you must keep your visit calm and brief. You can tell she doesn't think that Ree has ever done anything calm in her life. I touch Ree's arm and pull her away from the nurse before she can say anything back. Yes, ma'am, I assure the nurse as we walk away. Calm and brief. Ree stops in front of 102. She looks down at me, raises 1 eyebrow, and pushes the door open. Jewel seems a lot smaller in the bed than I remember. Without the flowered dress, she looks all washed out. Hey, Jewel, Ree says softly, touching her friend's hand. Jewel's eyes flutter open. Her gaze swims around the room until they come to rest on Ree's face. Oh, she says, is it really you? Or am I dreaming it's you? Ree smiles and squeezes her hand. It's really me. She motions me over. And this is my friend, Piper. Jewel's faded blue eyes search my face. Piper, she repeats. What a lovely name. Thank you, I say. I want to tell her all about taking care of baby and where he is now and how I promised him I'd find a way to get him back with her and that I never break my promises ever. But my tongue is as stiff and dry and useless as a dead fish. Piper helped me take care of baby after you came to the hospital, Jewel, Ree explains, and she's doing everything she can to help you and baby be together again. Jewel's eyes widen and fill with tears. Baby, she cries. Where's my baby? She sits up taller in her bed and rakes her fingers through her silver hair. I keep asking and asking everyone, where is my baby? And they won't tell me. They won't tell me anything. She sobs. Ray slips her arm around the older woman's shoulder and says in her tenderest voice, Baby's okay, Jewel. He's in a safe place being taken care of. She shoots me a look that says, don't say a thing. Now we have to make sure you'll be okay too. My tongue gets unstuck and rises from the dead. Miss Knight, I ask, were you on your way to see your sister when you, stopped here? Jewel's eyes dart around the room. Sis, is she here? Before we can answer, she pushes the blankets off her leg and starts to get up. A machine beeps. I have to find Sis, she insists. She's waiting for me. The beeping gets louder. The door to Jewel's room swings open. It's the nurse, and she doesn't look too happy. You need to leave, the nurse says. But we just got here, I protest. We need to calm the patient down, she says. Ree's eyes narrow in a dangerous glare. What are you going to do to her? She looks like she's going to explode. This is not going well. Ree, I say, pulling on Ree's arm. Let's go. We'll come back again soon. Ree yanks her arm away. Don't touch me, she growls. You need to leave now, the nurse says again, or I'll call security. Don't leave me here, Jewel whimpers. You can see the war inside Ree's heart in her eyes. Finally, she touches Jewel's hand. We'll be back soon, she says. I promise. Ree turns and shoves past the nurse. I start to follow her out, but then I stop. I don't know what in the world gets into me. Maybe fire, maybe Mama, but I turn and say in my most dignified voice, her name is Jewel, I say. Jewel Knight. She's not the patient. She's a person. Mama and Fire are working a puzzle in one of Mama's Sudoku books. When we get back down to the lobby, Mrs. Bailey is on her phone. Fire jumps up when she sees us. What happened? Did you tell the doctors about Jewel's medicine? My heart drops. The pill bottles. Ree and I look at each other. How could we have forgotten? My heart drops. I look away. We didn't really have a chance to tell anyone. Things got a little, well... I look at Mama. Tense up there. The nurse made us leave. Ree studies her boots, frowning. I cannot believe y'all didn't tell the nurse about the pills, Fire says. Jewel did get pretty upset and, well, confused, I say. Maybe it was best that we left. Mrs. B tucks her phone in her back pocket. We'll come back next week when I have a day off. Next week? Fire explodes. The longer she doesn't have her pills, the worse she's going to get. I feel tears stinging my eyes. In a week, baby might be adopted by someone else, I whisper. Her calm voice says, give me the pill bottles, honey. Mama's holding out her hand. I press the orange bottles in her palm. She drops them in her pocket and nods toward the elevator. Let's get this straightened out, Piper. My heart flies up to the ceiling. If anybody can get it straightened out, my Mama can. When we get back up to the nurse's station, Mama puts on her best no-nonsense smile and asks, who's in charge here? The mean nurse raises her chin. I am. Mama glances at her name tag. Miss Dillard, my daughter and I are friends of Miss Jewel Knight, a patient here. Mama takes the pill bottles out of her pocket. And we need to talk with her doctor about medications she needs. The nurse frowns at the orange bottles. How do you happen to have the patient's medication? Mama nods at me. I look from Mama to the nurse. It's kind of a long story, I say. The nurse, Miss Dillard, crosses her arms over her chest. I'm all ears. I give the nurse the shortest version of Jewel and Baby's story I possibly can. Let me tell you, it's not easy. When I'm finished, Mama turns back to Miss Dillard. Could you please contact Miss Knight's doctor and explain the situation? The nurse's puckered mouth softens. I had no idea about Miss Knight's situation, she says. She picks up the phone. Her primary physician is Dr. Wells. I think she's working today. While we wait for Dr. Wells, Mama asks, do you know if Miss Knight has been assigned a caseworker? I remember some of the people at the nursing home where Mama worked had caseworkers. Some were good, some were, as Mama said, as useless as a bicycle is for a fish. The nurse frowns. She should have been, giving her living situation. She flips through Jewel's file. She shakes her head. It doesn't look like it, though. She taps her pencil on the counter. She types something into the computer. Let me call a friend of mine at Human Services. Before you know it, the nurse's station is filled with talking. Mama talking on the phone with Mrs. B downstairs. the nurse talking to Dr. Wells, and a pretty lady named Samantha Madison. And then they're all talking to each other and across from each other, only getting bits and pieces of Jewel's story right. And none of Baby's story. I pull on Mama's sleeve. Jewel and Baby's story together is what's important. Mama nods. Excuse me, y'all, Mama says in a loud voice. Everybody stops talking. If we're really going to help Jewel, you need to know the whole story. Mama pulls me to her. My daughter here, Piper, is the one who knows more than anybody about Miss Knight. Dr. Well nods. Go on, Piper. Oh, Lord. I take a deep breath and I tell them the story of Baby and Jewel. I tell about meeting her in line at the 6th Street Community Kitchen and falling in love with Baby. Mama's face turns a little pink when I say we were standing in a food line to eat. Mine does too, but I have to tell it straight. I tell about Jewel getting sick and being taken away from Baby. I tell about Reed giving the duffel bag to Daddy for safekeeping and finding the 2 books and the key. I tell about how me and my friends figured out she and Baby lived in Lexington, Kentucky, and the silver key and the black suitcase, how the suitcase had the postcards, photographs, and medicine bottles in it. Dr. Wells nods, looking at the labels on the bottles. We knew Miss Knight had some, shall we say, psychological issues, but the medication we've been giving her hasn't helped. This information, she says, smiling for the first time, will make all the difference. Then I tell about the postcards, how Jewel was traveling across the country, east to west, to someone named Sis at Hartwell Manor, and how me and Karina and Daria figured out that Sis, who is Jewel's sister, lives at the Hartwell Manor in Idaho. But we don't know what her sister's name is because it might not be Knight. I kind of glare at the nurse. I was going to ask Jewel about that before, but we got thrown out of her room. I tell about Baby coming to the hospital looking for Jewel. I leave out the part about Ree sneaking him in to see Jewel before that. Him ending up at East Valley Humane Society and them putting him up for adoption soon, which would be the most terrible thing ever. Finally, I end with, they need each other. Baby and Jewel, and the telling is done. No one says a word. Then Nurse Dillard says, that's some story, Piper. Miss Madison, who is Jewel's new caseworker, holds out her hand. Can I see those, Piper? I'm surprised by how reluctant I am to hand the postcards and photographs over, but I do. Miss Madison quickly flips through them and trots off for Jewel's room. Dr. Wells gets on the phone and calls the doctor in Lexington, whose name is on Jewel's medicine bottles. She nods a lot and says, uh-huh, and yes, I see. Dr. Wells puts her phone back in her pocket. She writes a bunch of things down on a clipboard and hands it to Nurse Dillard. We need to start Miss Knight on these medications right away. Miss Madison comes out of Jewel's room smiling. She's typing something into her phone. She's got the fastest thumbs I've ever seen. Her sister's name is Bernadette. Miss Madison says, holding up her phone in a way that makes you wonder if this Bernadette is inside the phone just waiting. She does live in Hartwell Manor in Boise, Idaho, and Jewel was, in fact, on her way to go live there too. She's been expecting Jewel for months. She's been worried sick about her. What happened? I ask. Miss Madison sighs. I don't know for sure. I suspect she ran out of her medications early on in the trip and just, well, she shrugs. Lost her way, I say, remembering Ree's words. Miss Madison nods. She's very eager, though, to talk to Jewel. We'll do that a little later today when Jewel is a bit less confused. Mama smiles. That should do Jewel a world of good. She gives me a little hug. Things are falling into place for Jewel. And it's all because of you, Piper. Everybody, Mama, Miss Madison, Dr. Wells, and even Nurse Dillard, smile at me nodding. But I'm having a hard time pulling out a smile. I'm thinking about Baby. On the elevator ride down, I say, we've only solved one half of the problem, Mama. We have to go over to the animal shelter and explain about Jewel in the hospital and Jewel's sister. Maybe if we explain it just right, they won't adopt Baby to someone else. Let's wait and see what Jewel's social worker finds out about her sister. We'll know more after that. But Mama, I say, that could take a long time and Baby doesn't have a long time. Mama sighs and pinches the bridge of her perfect nose. The elevator dings, the door slides open. Okay, she says. After school tomorrow, we'll go over to the animal shelter. I bounce on my tiptoes and clap my hands. But, she says, skewering me with a no arguments look, but Dylan has to come too. I smile up at Mama. That's okay. There's no way I'm pushing my luck. I take her hand and squeeze it 3 times. She smiles back down at me as we walk into the sunlit lobby. She squeezes back twice for how much? I squeeze Mama's hand and reply hard enough that she'll feel it and know how much for the rest of our lives. I love that. She squeezed her hand 3 times and then Mama squeezes it back twice for how much? What do you think those 3 squeezes meant? What do you think? I know. Do you?